holistic medicine with a special emphasis on Youngevity, the nutritional supplement company, which I am a big cheerleader for. By way of disclaimers, please understand that I am not a corporate employee of the Youngevity organization. I do not own stock in Youngevity. I am not paid by Youngevity. I do not own a Youngevity distributorship. I am a licensed naturopathic physician. As of 2016, I have 27 years of clinical experience in the application of science-based, clinically verified, holistic naturopathic therapeutics, and I am of the opinion, after a quarter of a century of clinical experience, that as far as over-the-counter nutritional supplements go, Youngevity is the single best option that you can afford. There is no other nutritional supplement company that even comes close to what Youngevity offers, and I intend to give people a specific understanding of that, and also a broader understanding of the entire situation. So let's get into it. I am your steadfast advocate for health, Dr. Peter Glidden. Let's kick it off. Now, when it comes to science, like the fella said, you are welcome to your own opinion, but not your own set of facts. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 does not equal 5. Even in Cro-Magnon days, when arguably nobody knew what mathematics was, in base 10 mathematics, 2 plus 2 still equaled 4. There are some things which are immutable, and these are the things which the scientific method attempts to uncover and to discover. It's a very common misconception. It's a cultural myth that still exists even in the 21st century, that holistic medicine, naturopathic medicine, medical nutrition, herbology, homeopathy, acupuncture, Ayurvedic medicine, etc., are unproven and unscientific. This is a lie. Interestingly enough, according to the National Institutes of Health, let's see what they have to say about the research conducted with vitamins and medical nutrition. The website of the National Institutes of Health is pubmed.gov. pubmed.gov. I went into pubmed.gov, the website of the National Institutes of Health, and I did a search for vitamin C, and it returned 55,655 research articles, 55,655 research articles pertinent to vitamin C. If that isn't science-based, I really don't know what is. My favorite supplement in the world, calcium. I did a search in PubMed for calcium. It returned 521,247 research publications. That, my friends, is 500,000 more than 500,000 research publications published in peer-reviewed journals about calcium. Selenium. We love selenium. I did another search in PubMed for selenium, 29,025 publications, and the icing on the cake, antioxidants, for goodness sakes, 419,273 research publications. So, the next time that somebody tells you vitamins just give you expensive urine, and that naturopathic therapeutics, the therapeutics which espouse medical nutrition, are unscientific and unfounded in the discipline of science, you can tell them to go pound sand, because they absolutely positively do not know what they are talking about. A medical doctor or anybody telling you that vitamins and medical nutrition, the application of, is an unscientific branch of medicine is tantamount to that person telling you that your psoriasis or your asthma or your eczema or your type 2 diabetes is caused by a spirit possession, or there's a little green man from Mars living inside your lungs, and that's the cause. If someone told you that, you would look askance at them and you would walk away rapidly. Well, the next time somebody tells you that vitamins just give you expensive urine, laugh first and then walk away. Interestingly enough, that of course is research that's done in the mainstream, right? The National Institutes of Health doesn't get any more mainstream than that. But in the naturopathic community, at the colleges of naturopathic medicine, research is an ongoing phenomenon. Bastyr University, my alma mater, this is their research page on their website. They have done they've been around since 1978. So that is 22 plus 15, 37 years of existence. They have conducted 112 research studies. 112 research studies in 37 years. When you understand that naturopathic medicine grew itself, all by itself, from ashes like the phoenix, and that this profession has really only been ensconced here politically for 37 years, 37 years, 112 research studies is a remarkable accomplishment, considering the fact that these organizations, the naturopathic medical schools all around North America, had to start from scratch, literally. Bastyr University started with a $300 loan, and it has built itself into the academic powerhouse that it is today. 112 research studies so far conducted at Bastyr University. The National College of Naturopathic Medicine continues the beat. They have participated, I believe, in between 50 and 60 research studies. The Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine, also founded in 1978. It must have been something in the stars in 1978. Their alumni and the research that they are doing at the college themselves, 65 published research articles, 65 peer-reviewed and published research articles. The naturopathic community is into this game. Naturopathic medicine is defined as a bridge between holistic medical thought and science, a marriage between the two. And this is, of course, the next big deal. Naturopathic medicine. 100 years from now, naturopathic medicine will be everywhere all the time, and the pharmaceutical industry will be a forgotten anecdote of history. Why? Because naturopathic, science-based, clinically verified, holistic medical therapeutics work. Pharmaceutical therapeutics simply suppress. And there's a gigantic difference between the two. This book, the textbook of natural medicine, written by my original mentor, Dr. Joseph Pizzorno, and his colleague, Dr. Michael Murray, this was the magnum opus of naturopathic medicine, which put naturopathic medicine onto the scientific map. This book is filled with research references relative to the use of medical nutrition in a holistic naturopathic setting. This is the research publication which made naturopathic medicine a legitimate academic engine, and it was written by two men whom I both admire. Dr. Pizzorno, my mentor before I met Dr. Joe Wallach. Dr. Pizzorno, the founder, one of the three founders of Bastyr University of Naturopathic Medicine in Seattle, the alma mater of yours truly. And this brings us, of course, to longevity. As I mentioned before, I'm not affiliated with Youngevity financially. However, I am a cheerleader for Youngevity, and I'm a cheerleader for Youngevity because Youngevity's therapeutics produce more consistent results than anything I've ever seen. When I use Youngevity's supplements on my patients, I see remarkable results. When I follow Youngevity's founder, Dr. Joel Wallach's advice, when I pay attention to his research and his understanding of the pathophysiology of disease, the results that I get are remarkable. When it comes to science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition, the proof of the pudding certainly is in the eating. Your therapeutic either produces a positive result or it does not. Now we'll get into the foundation of Youngevity's research in just a second here, but Youngevity also, like the colleges of naturopathic medicine in North America, understands the importance of research. Youngevity teamed up with Clemson University and did research, multi-tiered research on 2 of their nutritional supplements, Beyond Tangy Tangerine and Ultimate Classic. It was a remarkable research project. Here's an overview of the results. They took Beyond Tangy Tangerine and Ultimate Classic and they applied them to cell cultures in petri dishes in a lab. They also gave them to living and breathing human beings, and here's what they found. In the cell cultures, Beyond Tangy Tangerine and Ultimate Classic did not cause genotoxicity, right? We've spoken about epigenetics and the environmental influence on gene function and gene structure. The BRCA gene, the one that causes breast cancer that Angelina Jolie was so upset about, is not a gene, it's a mutation of a gene. Conventional medicine does not ask what causes the mutation of the gene. We do. We pay attention to it. It's a big deal. According to Clemson University's research, Beyond Tangy Tangerine and Ultimate Classic did not alter gene expression in a negative way in the cell cultures that they looked at. As a matter of fact, it protected against gene damage, against genetic damage. Beyond Tangy Tangerine, interestingly enough, helps to sequester toxins, reducing their negative impact on health, did not create inflammation, and increase preventive anti-inflammatory activity of the human body, and help to modulate the anti-inflammatory activity of the human body during inflammation. So if there was no inflammation present, Beyond Tangy Tangerine and Ultimate Classic helped to strengthen the anti-inflammatory part of your biochemistry. And when there was an inflammation, it helped it to work much more efficiently. And that, ladies and gentlemen, beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick, but it pales in comparison to what they found when they added Beyond Tangy Tangerine and Ultimate Classic to live cancer cells in a petri dish. The Ultimate Classic, 95% reduction in the amount of colon cancer cells that it was applied to, 65% reduction liver and stomach cancer, 30% reduction in breast cancer cells. Now this was in vitro, not in vivo. This was in a petri dish, but nonetheless, these results are compelling. Beyond Tangy Tangerine coming in at a close second, 60% reduction in colon cancer cells, 65% reduction in liver and stomach, and 30% reduction in breast cancer. Now, if you have the choice of going to your health food store and randomly taking a multivitamin, multi-mineral, multi-antioxidant nutritional supplement off of the shelf, or cobbling 3 or 4 things together without really knowing any better, or taking Youngevity's nutritional supplements, which have been proven to produce these results, which do you think would perhaps give you a better shot at optimizing your health? Well, Youngevity, hands down. And this is one of the reasons why I am such a cheerleader of Youngevity. Interestingly enough, Beyond Tangy Tangerine and Ultimate Classic not only eliminated cancer cells that they were applied to, but it inhibited the growth of new cancer cells. For goodness sakes, science is a harsh task mistress, and it's very difficult in an objective research protocol to be misled. Beyond Tangy Tangerine and Ultimate Classic should be your go-to nutritional supplements for overall foundation medical nutrition. Like Scooby-Doo says, what? 95% reduction? You got to be kidding me. Why everybody and their brother doesn't do this, simply because everybody and their brother does not know about this like you know about this. And this is why I would argue that once you have experienced the truth, you are in its velvet grasp forever, and it should become itinerant upon you to help spread this message of health recovery through science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. Now, this is where the rubber hits the road. This was what originally got me excited about Youngevity. The founder of Youngevity, Dr. Joel Wallach, my mentor, colleague, and friend, was involved from 1970 to 1982, or 1983, 71 to 83, in a $25 million research project in which he did 26,000 autopsies, animals and human, and 10 million blood chemistries and histopathologies, animals and human. The intention here was to discover the relationship between environmental pollution and human health. Halfway through the project, it was almost canceled because they were not coming up with much in the way of net negative results from environmental pollution. Interestingly enough, they found that humans and animals could handle small doses, normal doses of bad stuff in the air, bad stuff in the water, bad stuff in the food, and that the only time that really produced a negative result was if there was a giant exposure, like with Minamata in Japan, where the villagers in Minamata were exposed to gallons and gallons of mercury that had been dumped into Minamata River, or in Chernobyl, where people who lived downstream, downwind of Chernobyl were exposed, of course, to ionizing radiation. Large exposures like that had a big net negative effect, but moderate exposure on a regular basis, not so much. However, they did discover something quite compelling. All the more so because they stumbled upon it, they were not looking for it. They noticed that even though environmental toxicity was a relatively low stressor, if the animal or the human didn't have enough vitamins, if they didn't have enough minerals, if they didn't have enough essential fatty acids or amino acids, they got sick and died. This was the beginning of the revolution of the relationship between nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids, and overall health. This book literally rewrote our understanding of medical nutrition. It's in the Smithsonian now. Here it is again. Dr. Wallach is the author. This book formed the foundation of Dr. Wallach's mission to educate people about the importance, the necessity of science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. Now, interestingly enough, before Dr. Wallach became a naturopathic physician like myself, he was a veterinarian, world's leading veterinarian pathologist. And that research that I just showed you, when it became available to ranchers and veterinarians and people involved in livestock, it completely changed everything. When Dr. Wallach's nutrition was applied to household dogs, they doubled their lifespan. When it was applied to pandas in the zoo, all of a sudden they started having babies where before they were infertile, and so forth and so on. Now, this is an interesting thing to think about, and nobody thinks about it like this, but when was the last time you ever heard of a chicken getting arthritis? When was the last time you ever heard of a chicken getting gout? When was the last time you ever heard of a chicken getting osteoporosis? When was the last time you ever saw a chicken walking around on crutches? You never see that. Why is that? Because in the veterinarian community, once they started providing ample medical nutrition to their pigs and their cows and their sheep and their chickens and whatever else they were growing, all of a sudden, chronic illness in those animals virtually disappeared. For goodness sakes. If we weren't nutrifying chickens with medical nutrition and they all got sick, which they would, chicken and eggs would cost 100 eggs would be $100 for a dozen, and a chicken would be too expensive unless you were Donald Trump. And the same thing for cows. How many times do you see a cow getting a open heart surgery? How many times do you see a cow on kidney dialysis? How many times do you see a cow with fibromyalgia or asthma or debilitating eczema? You never see that. Why? Because the animals are completely nutrified all of the time. When was the last time you saw a pig getting a kidney transplant or a colostomy bag? You don't see that, but you see it in humans all of the time. Interestingly enough, when a human heart goes bad, what do? They find a pig, they kill the pig, they take out the pig's heart, they cut the valve out of the pig's heart and they put it into the human. Why? Because the pig's heart valve is healthy. Why is the pig's heart valve healthy and not the human's? Because the pig has been nutrified its entire life by the person who was tending its growth, which leads to one of life's greatest ironies, that your household pet, your dog or your cat, is better nutrified than you are. Why? Because the veterinarian industry, the livestock industry, has put into animal food the nutrients iterated by Dr. Wallach's $25 million research. And this is one of the greatest disconnects in modern American medicine. Quite frankly, this is not an American phenomenon, it's a worldwide phenomenon. We don't have a free medical market. The medical market is dominated by the MDs. The MDs don't practice medicine, they practice allopathic medicine, and allopathic medicine wants nothing at all to do with medical nutrition. So you're a reductionist. You are brought up inside of a reductionistic philosophy, and you want to figure out everything there is to know about the relationship between the sun and the earth. So you get your grandfather's sextant, which measures the position and the angle of the sun in the sky, and you measure the position of the sun in the sky 5 times a day for an entire year. And you collect mountains of data. And then you use that data to correctly predict what position in the sky the sun is going to be at your latitude, your place on planet Earth, the place that you took the measurements from. You're able to accurately predict to the millisecond where the sun will be in the sky at any moment in time for 365 days of the year, and you would be 100% correct. Now, because you are reductionistically inclined, it would be easy for you to be unaware of data that you were unaware of. You don't know what you don't know. So even though you had collected all of this information, because you didn't know about gravity, you didn't know about the mass of the sun or the mass of the earth, you could reasonably conclude from all of the measurements that you've done and all of the observations that you've conducted that the earth, the sun goes around the earth. I mean, look, you can see it. Sun goes around the earth, doesn't it? Well, no, of course it doesn't. The earth goes around the sun. Well, that's what you've come up to believe. Interestingly enough, the sun is also speeding through the galaxy, and as the sun speeds through the galaxy, the planets trail behind it. Interesting. You didn't know that before you watched this video. The same way that our theoretical reductionistic astronomer who didn't know about gravity would assume incorrectly that the sun goes around the earth. For goodness sakes, you can see it. It rises in the east and it's the sun that's moving. And here I've got all this data to back up my position, but because they were missing a few data points, they would be incorrect. And it's interesting, right, that most of us in this culture are also incorrect, because we think that the sun's at the middle and the planets revolve around it like on an old vinyl record player, right? It's not like that at all. The sun speeds through the universe and the planets trail behind it. Interesting. You don't know what you don't know. Well, because medical doctors and research facilities all around the world funded by the pharmaceutical industry are doing reductionistic research. Every time they pick up a test tube, every time they look through the microscope, they are working with a built-in prejudice that they are completely unaware of. The reductionistic philosophy lends to them an a priori built-in prejudice that they are completely unaware of, and this is why their research fails. Now, in the 21st century, modern American medicine is rife with hypocrisy. Here's just an eeny-weeny teeny piece of this puzzle. According to the New England Journal of Medicine in 2006, there was a 17-page report published in the New England Journal of Medicine, very prestigious medical journal. It looked at 3 diabetes drugs and made the conclusion, unequivocally, that Avandia, which was a diabetes drug developed by GlaxoSmithKline, was the best of the 3, hands down. The other 2 didn't even come close to producing the positive effects that Avandia did. Interestingly enough, the research was funded by GlaxoSmithKline, the company that made Avandia, and all of the doctors who conducted the research were financially connected to GlaxoSmithKline, and this apparently was okay for the New England Journal of Medicine. They were apparently okay with this, and so they published it. Interestingly enough, what they found a couple of years later, when people actually started to objectively look at the research, there were a number of red flags that the GlaxoSmithKline paid for researchers overlooked. This drug was so bad, it was eventually eliminated from the marketplace and currently is believed to be related to at least 83,000 heart attacks and deaths from a drug which was written up with a positive resume in the New England Journal of Medicine and given the thumbs up by the American Medical Association. It's hypocrisy on its face. These researchers were bought and sold, as was the medical journal which published this nonsense. Don't believe me, however. Marcia Angel, MD, a former editor-in-chief of the New England Journal of Medicine, has this to say. Any reputable journal, medical journal, is at the mercy of what is submitted to it and must choose from whatever comes over the transom. Many studies never see the light of day because their findings are negative. There is a heavy bias towards positive studies, and this negative bias is a real problem. A company may conduct 1,000 trials. If 2 are positive, they get FDA approval and are published. The other 998 never see the light of day. In fact, half of all study data is never published, and this is supposed to pass as objective science. You've got to be kidding me. So, the medical doctors know that their own house is rotten, or they should. I know it. You know it. This is common knowledge by now in the 21st century. But instead of cleaning up their own house, instead of removing the speck from their own eye, they speak negative nonsense about their competition. Oh, those chiropractors, they're quacks. Oh, those naturopaths, they practice unscientific medicine. No, we don't. As a matter of fact, the only people practicing unscientific medicine in the 21st century have MD after their name. Now, I could give a 6-hour seminar. It would bore you to tears, iterating point by point by point by point by point all of these transgressions with contemporary research. There have been books that have been written about it. Do a Google search for bias in medical research. You will be flabbergasted. But as far as I'm concerned, the king of the hill, the icing on the cake here, doesn't have to do with pharmaceutical-directed, reductionistically oriented research. It has everything to do with actual clinical practice, off-label prescribing. This is when a medical doctor prescribes a drug for something that the FDA has not approved it for. So they'll give somebody with a migraine headache an asthma medicine because in their clinical experience it helps. Or they'll give somebody with nausea a blood pressure medicine because in their clinical experience it helps. Now, it's clinically based, but it's not scientific. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite of such, which on its face is hypocritical and, it's rampant. According to the Mayo Clinic, this is a very hard metric to measure, by the way, between 21 and 47% of prescriptions that are disseminated are off-label prescribed. A little bit of this, and there's the reference for the bean counters, a little bit of this is okay, because that's the practice of medicine. This is how medicine advances. Not everybody has $100 million to throw at a research project. So doctors in clinical practice, they move and adapt and change and try and see and report. Now, when the medical doctors do it, it's A-okay, but when the naturopaths do it, no, that's bad science, it's bad medicine. When the medical doctors do it, it's okay, but when the chiropractors or the Ayurvedic practitioners or the homeopaths do it, no, that's unscientific, it's bad medicine, it's verboten, it's hypocritical on its face. And this happens all of the time. One of my famous or most favorite quotes by Voltaire: doctors, MDs, are men, and now women, who prescribe medicines of which they know little to cure diseases of which they know less, in human beings of whom they know nothing. I would like to addend this.
Game and fractured his wrist. Make a long story short.
Doctors, MDs, are men and women who prescribe medicines of which they know little to cure diseases of which they know less, in human beings of whom they know nothing, and who are not fit to worship at the altar of science, which they have desecrated with their arrogance and cowardice. This is the fact of the matter. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to your own opinion, but you are not welcome to your own set of facts. The medical doctors and the pharmaceutical industry have monopolized the medical marketplace for 100 years, and they have done so by telling you that everybody else except them practices bad science, isn't really scientific, when in point of fact the reverse is true. And if you were a member of a church group, right, Knights of Columbus, okay, you're a member of your local branch of the Knights of Columbus, and you found out that everybody in that branch and that the people, so all right, let's make up an organization because I don't know anything about the Knights of Columbus. Let's say you're a member of a church group called the Brothers and Sisters of Zion, okay? You're a card-carrying member. Your father was a card-carrying member. Your mother, your grandparents, right? It's in your family. It's what you do. Card-carrying members. And then you find out that in actuality, behind the scenes, The money that you were donating to them was being taken by the people at the top and given to terrorists. And it was proven. Would you continue to be a member? No. Would you raise your voice? Yes. Why don't the medical doctors? Medical doctors know that their profession is corrupt. Medical doctors know everything that I just told you. If they don't, well, they're just not paying attention, and that's worse. So why don't they do something about it? Because they're cowardly. They don't want to give up their MD degree because it brings them a tremendous amount of political power and social cachet. They're not going to give it up, even though it signifies membership in an organization, which interestingly enough is the leading cause of death and the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, and which is rife with the very antithesis of science, which leads to my maxim: for goodness sakes, what are you waiting for? Fire your medical doctor now. Follow me instead. Hitch your wagon to the naturopathic star. Hitch your wagon to the star of science-based, clinically verified, holistic medical nutrition. Real science. Not pharmaceutical, centrist, reductionistically oriented, a priori prejudiced, biased science. Real science. The intention of which is to eliminate human suffering. I guess what this all boils down to is, how do you feel? How's it working for you and your loved ones, following the advice of the pharmaceutical industry and your medical doctors? How's that going? Not so good, is it? You need a prescription medicine to wake up, a prescription medicine to fall asleep, a prescription medicine to pee, prescription medicine not to pee, prescription for your heartburn, for your blood pressure, for your arthritis, and then a medicine or two to take care of the side effects of those prescriptions, and every year you get a little bit worse, not a little bit better. Ladies and gentlemen, we are between a rock and a hard place here when it comes to the delivery and the dissemination of medical information in this, the 21st century. Join the revolution. Educate yourself about the wonders of science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. Follow me on Facebook, Glidden.healthcare. Follow me on YouTube, Glidden.healthcare. Find somebody in your community who is a member of Longevity and align yourself with them. Go to my website, become a Dr. Glidden advocate.